Uh, so yeah, that's me. I'll popcorn over to Jakub.
Thanks, Ziggy. Indeed, my name is Jakub. What should you know about me? Through education, I'm a software engineer. I studied back in Poland, and I got hooked up on Agile and agility in 2004, maybe, when I first heard in the software engineering course about extreme programming, and I was like, whoa, this is great. I want to do more of it. And then I was just, throughout my career, I was in different teams with different products, working either with extreme programming, Scrum, Kanban, different ways as a team member. Then I started doing some Scrum mastering as well in 2010, maybe. And 2013, I did my CSM, I think, and CSPO. And I thought I was on top of the world. I took a gig as an Agile coach. And I realized, everyone around me in this company are stupid. They don't do what I tell them to do. And I decided to quit. And I decided Agile coaching was rubbish, and I would never do it again. And I went back to being a tech lead and doing technical stuff. I moved to New Zealand. I started working for Ryan Health, and then as a team lead, and I met Colin. And initially, I avoided calling as much as I could, because I thought, hey, these Agile coaches, they don't add any value. Like, we don't need Agile coaches, and he probably is as bad as I was. So I was avoiding him until I was almost forced to talk to Colin, and I realized, hey, this guy is cool. Oh, he asks good questions. And I befriended Colin, and we are friends still to this day. And I even decided, hey, I want to learn a bit more about this Agile coaching. And I started discovering how some of the things I was learning, I actually started realizing, hey, Colin has already been doing this to me, and it has great results. And that's not what I was doing when I was first Agile coach. And it was not the fault of the people around me. It was my fault that I sucked at that job. And from there, by the way, I got restructured out of my role in Orion as well. So I was impacted by, it was the first time out of two that I was restructured. And from there, I just went into different consulting and coaching roles here in Auckland for various companies. And now I am in a head of engineering role, combining both my delivery and Agile coaching with my technical skills, with some leadership, and trying to build good products. That's me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jakub, and great, Jakub and Ziggy, for you guys to be here as well. So let's get started with the first question. Ziggy, I want to start with you because you're the one on the panel who is now in the midst of it all, which is not the limelight you want to have.
No.
But how was it for you when you heard this news?
It was, we just got a new CEO start at Xero, and she'd done a series of chats with the company in various locations. And the first couple that she did in New Zealand were very much, nice to be here, how are you? But as she managed to go around the globe and visit the various offices, it was clear that she did want to have a lot of change at the company from what she was saying. So I expected a restructure. When we had the all hands, I wasn't expecting it to be as big as it was. That kind of blew my mind a bit. And it was a big shock because Xero, quite frankly, isn't losing money. It's doing very well. So it was a massive shock. I think when you get news like this, you go through a whole host of emotions. You go through shock and anxiety, and then a bit of anger kicks in, and hurt and sadness, and you go through a massive range of emotions. And it knocked me for six, I must admit. And I remember like going home a bit numb and opening the fridge and grabbing a beer and trying to wrap my head around it. and thinking, how am I going to explain this to my anxious partner that I might be about to lose my job? But yeah, the best thing that happened the next day was a Slack channel was started called Significantly Impacted, and the sense of camaraderie that was on that was amazing. People started doing research and looking into the legal implications, and then somebody started a spreadsheet of all the people who were impacted, and then we created another tab for all the opportunities that we'd heard about, and we all started putting it onto social media, and the response was staggering. I put a post up, and I think it's up to 40,000 views or something like that. It's ridiculous. And the list is being shared. And I've since found out apparently that this has happened at another company, and they've copied our modus operandi and have created a list as well, which is remarkable. But that just goes to show you the kind of caliber of people that we have at Xero. You know, that they had bad news one day, they dusted themselves down and got on with the job the next day.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my reaction to the news, and over the last week or so, it's just been a matter of trying to process it and work through those emotions and stuff like that.
Yeah. Michael, how was it for you to read about the Xero layoff as an outsider, to be fair?
I guess for me, I went through two different emotions. First of all, I screamed and shouted that this is not the 1990s anymore, and that companies need to grow up. This is one of probably, I'm going to say 24 major layoffs that are happening in New Zealand, but we don't know about many of them, because there are three ways to do a major restructure and layoff. There is the direct, like Xero, at least it's open and honest. There's the forced to leave, where you create an environment so poor that people will leave, or the normal hiring freeze. They're still all a standard management consultancy way of removing staff, lowering specific areas, reducing the average cost of staff. But it has a massive impact, and it's stupid. It's the only word for it. It's stupid. And the second thing is I'm getting ready to short Xero shares. Because it happens, you can look at it from a meta-analysis point of view, your share price will go down within 18 months. And you look at it and go, well, that, you know, it's kind of predictable. So yeah, I was very angry because I like to think New Zealand is a little bit different to the rest of the world. We're a little bit more aligned with customer value, and at Xero especially, because I had many debates with Xero coaches over the years, was more in tune with how that impacts the value chains. But the fact is the board brought in a CEO to fire people. And we see it time and time again. It's very upset.
Yeah. Jakob, you mentioned when you introduced yourself that you've been part of 2 restructures in your career. What was going through your mind when you heard about Xero and the other companies that are starting to show at the moment?
Yeah, I think it was a mix of emotions. First was surprise. I didn't track Xero's stock, so I didn't know it was going down, and I thought that Xero was doing well. And I had a lot of friends and past colleagues and people I care about at Xero, so I, of course, was worried, and I reached out, and I was trying to see how I could help. And yeah, at the same time, you know, at the same time when I was reflecting now, if you look at the kind of software market around the globe, like this is all happening. It's not really a surprise on a global scale. Like people, like companies are either stopping hiring or letting people go. And you look at the big companies, but you also look at the smaller companies, and it's in most, not all countries, but in most countries, this is already happening. And for the countries that it's not happening yet, it will. And I was also, one more thing, I was also reflecting now that throughout the years, when I was talking to people who used to work at Xero or still work, there was a number of comments about the growth of Xero, how fast it was, and how possibly how much waste it also accumulated because of that, and how much kind of maybe not great practices or maybe not the right people being in the right place. And I'm not criticizing that. I was never part of it. It's not first-hand information, but I wonder, was there something in there that not caused it, but contributed to it in a way? Yeah.
Chris put a question in the chat that I find very, very interesting as well. Do you see this as a Northern Hemisphere versus Southern Hemisphere culture clash? I think, Michael, that relates a little bit with what you mentioned about New Zealand hopefully being different.
Yeah, I love that comment, Chris. Nicely put. It is a culture clash, not only because we think we're a little bit different, which every company thinks a little bit different, right? But more importantly, we still look at our companies like a home. I mean, look at how Ziggy spoke about Xero people. As a home, it's not a job for him. JOB, just over broke. It's not a job. It's a home. It's a place. It's a whānau. And to be let go like nothing because of a line on a balance sheet doesn't resonate very well with maybe not all Southern Hemispheres, but a lot of us, to be honest. This cycle of over-hiring to be able to fire and keep IP does not sit well with Kiwis, or I would say all Australians. So I agree, Chris. Nicely put.
Yeah, it's a very good question.
I just want to back up what Michael said. When I joined Xero, precisely because of the values and the culture that I'd heard about, and when I got there, it was amazing. Everywhere you work, you're working with some amazing people, and the attitude and the camaraderie we got was fantastic. I really did feel I found a home, and I thought, this is a job I'm not going to be rushing out the door for. So I suppose that's a bitter pill I've now had to swallow. That looks likely, but I think to add another dimension to this, there's the economics. A few months, we were in a growth period, so lots of people were getting hired. And obviously we've now reached the top of that curve, and we're heading into the dip of a recession. The biggest expense the companies have got are the staff that they've hired during the good times. And they've now sort of swung the axe at those people. I think in the short term, that'll do great for the shares and, their efficiencies and things like that. But the problem is, once we start coming out of this recession, the growth period will kick off again. And what's that going to do?
Yeah, exactly. That's a little bit in line with the reputation kind of thing, right? We'll get back to that, but I think that's an interesting thing. I think to talk about as well. Do you think did you get, Ziggy, from the new CEO a explanation why this was happening, or was it more a message, this is happening?
The first all hands, I think it's fair to say, she was very upset, and you could tell that she wasn't enjoying herself having to explain what was gonna happen. And the message was, we need to do this for the good of the company, the shareholders, and make Xero very efficient. I think the town hall since, it's been a little bit more, well, you all said we needed to be more efficient, so this is what we're doing. And a little bit more combative in her language, but that is what they're saying. The restructure is all about making Xero more efficient, stop duplication of roles, and help the bottom line, basically.
Yeah. Jakob, another interesting question in the chat. Is this about a post-pandemic tech bubble versus a perceived social license to restructure as everyone else is doing it?
Well, I can't answer that. That's quite a big question. What I could see, and I did look for some stats and graphs, it looked like there was a bit of hiring freeze and restructure at the beginning of COVID. And then people realized actually tech can solve a lot of problems that we have. So tech started hiring again. And I think the peak globally was in 2021, September to November. I think that was the peak. And then slowly from that moment, we started seeing people being let go. Mm-hmm. My theory is that it's very easy to see opportunities in the business and to go for new products and new features. And to do this, you often think that, well, we need to have more people. Instead of stopping something, we just keep starting, we add new stuff, and then we realize, that these ideas were not verified. These were just hypotheses that we didn't know they're gonna pay off. And then suddenly you realize that, hey, we actually have too many people and we need to scale down. That's what I think might be happening. Yeah, I'm sure that Ziggy and Michael have other good opinions.
I'm happy to be way harsher than Ziggy could be because obviously he's still in the situation. But at the end of the day, when your operating revenue increases by 29% in the last financial year to $1.1 billion, when your total subscribers increase by 19% to 3.3 million, when your analyzed monthly revenue increases by 28% to $1.2 billion, and you dare do this to your staff who helped you get there, I'm sorry. This is exactly what Jacob just said. It is using people to get to the point you want to get and then drive some efficiencies in to reduce that overhead, to increase your margin to your shareholders. Great. I get where you're coming from. Just everyone remember it, because at the end of the day, I wanted to work for Xero for a decade. I applied for so many roles at Xero and I'm not the right fit. So there you go. But I will never apply for a role at Xero again. And they will never get away with paying 20-30% under market value again, because they're a great place to work with a Fano. Because you know, sorry, like it gets on my nerves a little bit, because at the end of the day, if your house with 5 kids was having financial problems, you don't go and say, I have to get rid of 2 of the kids, got to lower those costs, got to make sure I can get fatter faster. So I'll stop now.
No, it's definitely, I think more people will share that view as well. It feels a little bit like the family is broken up, like there's a family feud going on, and we lost some cousins along the way, and still we're invited for Christmas dinner, and it feels very awkward kind of vibe. That's what I get when I talk to people who are either part of the Xero layoff or are still in Xero and have to deal with the aftermath of all of this as well, right? Because that is also a thing. The amount of guilt that a person can feel with still having a job at Xero in this particular situation, it can be far overseen as well. And yeah, it's quite tough to hear those kind of stories coming in now as well.
And even more so, just to double down on that, I had the same anger towards Air New Zealand, who did it during COVID. And people were saying, oh, but COVID, there's a recession, we have no flights going. Air New Zealand, like Xero, did not ask their staff, did not collaborate on a solution to the problem. And whenever you do that, you know it's a top-down decision based upon metrics, not people. So,
yeah. Let's take a look at another question. We kind of touched on this already, but why do organizations go through restructures as we see at Xero and link it to business agility? Because I think, Ziggy, when I talked to you, just 2 days after it got public, I said, like, the one thing I struggled to figure out is why the message of a CEO or an executive team in general is the business agility that an organization needs to achieve, and then firing or restructuring every single coaching role in an organization that might be able to make that happen. What do you think? Why is this so often linked with each other?
To be honest, I think it was a paper exercise. I think you know, they had a figure in mind that they needed to reduce. If you're not writing code, you know, you're going to be okay for now. And then they looked at all the roles and went, well, you know, do we need that many people doing it? Let's reduce it. I don't think they sat down and thought about how we could approach it better, how we could slowly maybe make the changes so it's not so drastic. I don't think there was that level of thought. I think it was very much a paper exercise, and that's been borne out by some of the decisions that have been made. People have been put into pools of people that have got completely different skills to them, but they're essentially competing for the same job, because they've got the same job title. They've just been put into that pool. Yeah. And there's been other odd things where you've got a manager, they've disestablished every member of staff underneath him who actually creates the work and just left him on his own. There's been some very bizarre decisions made, which makes me think that it was, let's look at the org structure. How do we compress it and reduce it? If it was about business agility, I think there's a lot of different ways that they could have done it. And I don't see any evidence of them reaching out and trying to do that. So I've worked at places before where I've had the same problems. We've had a restructure because, you know, the company was in trouble, but there seemed to be a lot more considered approach to how that restructure was done. Whereas I'm not really seeing that here. I think there's some other people from Xero that might be on the call here that might have some views on that. But yeah, I don't think this restructure is about business agility. I think it's about, you know, reducing the headcount, getting through the recession, and then they'll probably start recruiting more product people again. There was a point made before, I think it was Jakob talking about it. Xero is one of the very best product companies I've worked at. They do incredible research in new features that we release, and the level of features that we've got in Xero is incredible. So I don't think it was because we're too bloated in that sense. We're a very dynamic company with some great products, and I think that they're probably looking at reducing that as well. But that's speculation on my part. But it's an amazing product company.
Jakob, what do you think about the question? Like, do you first of all agree with it, and if so, or if not, what will be your reasoning?
I think, well, to answer this question, why I think people do that or companies do that is that often agility is understood as efficiency and going fast, or maybe efficiency, not necessarily effectiveness. And you know, if I from memory, if I look at a model of business agility from Business Agility Institute, you know, it talks about, I think, 4 or 5, it changed recently, so it may be a bit different now. It looked at, I think, 4 or 5 different domains. Like, it was about value delivery, it was engaged culture, customer centricity, people first, leadership, and maybe something else. And there's nothing, you know, about letting people go. So I can't see it in my mind how it is related. At the same time, I don't think that you need to necessarily have agile coaches to have business agility. I think that's not necessary.
No, agree.
It could be useful. It's not necessary, but at the same time, letting coaches and other roles go, I don't think it's a direct link, or I can't see any link to business agility.
Yeah. All right. Next question, Jakob, you sent me this one by email, and I thought it was so bang on. And I also see some few people in the chat asking questions that are quite similar. What do you think goes through the minds of leaders, of managers, of how you want to label those roles in the organization during a restructuring or a reorganization or a layoff, like we've now seen in New Zealand happening? Jakub, could you?
Oh,
share
it's me. All right. Yes. Whoa. Whew. I think why I asked this question was I wanted to also make sure that we don't bash and, don't just throw away leaders and just say, hey, they are bad people. They are humans after all as well. And often these decisions are, they are asked to execute them. How they execute them is a different question. I think that's going to talk about the leadership style. I think I wanted to make sure that we just don't criticize them with all the force we have, because these are sometimes very tough decisions, and many of them actually spend hours, if not days, and if not weeks, just trying to figure out how do we do this well. And they do often ask good questions, and these are not easy decisions for people. It may seem like, oh, they just let people go. I would doubt it was easy for Xero people, leaders, to make these decisions. And
Yeah.
I would assume that seriously, whoever is impacted, they probably spent a good chunk of time like deciding which role should be impacted. So these people, these leaders are also people. So just making sure we do embrace them as well. And some of them are impacted, some of them may not be impacted yet, may be impacted soon. So yeah, it often is seen like they are the face of the change, but often they don't make these decisions.
Yeah. Michael, how do you see this? Like, what do you think or guess what can be going through their minds at a stage like this?
I mean, it depends on which leaders, right? So a leader is someone who has followers. So if we mean the executive team, a lot of them would have been blindsided. That's normal. The board of directors is who I always hold accountable. It's the board of directors that would have made the decisions in front of them, hired the CE to do the job that they know what's going to be done. They probably had a Big Four consultancy firm come in to tell them exactly which roles. It's one of the things you can always find out if they're doing a value stream mapping exercise and they're very excited about it. It's because they're looking for the 30% cut they're looking for. And I've done it. I've done it. I'm sorry. I've been on projects where the program manager says to me, hey, Michael, where can we slim the fat? And I'm like, okay, here's 30%. And they're gone. So I agree with Jakub in the fact that they're human, and we need to do some empathy for them in the fact that they probably had a hard decision making those decisions, and the families it impacts and the culture impacts that will come from it. What support do they need? Leadership training to not get in a situation in the first place. I'm probably way harsher, Jakub. I'm trying to be empathetic, but I'm really not. I'm very upset and angry about it. The mid-tier managers would have no idea, and they'll be very upset right now. What support do they need? They need to be able to recorral their teams to a mission. It's going to be very hard for them. I feel very sorry for them, actually, because I've been in that situation. And the loss in productivity could be as high as 68%. Right. So, you're trying to get a more efficient organization and you've dropped productivity by 68%. Hard question. Sorry, I don't think I really answered it.
I mean, I want to kind of echo a lot of the direct leaders at Xero are also significantly impacted by these changes. They're not only losing their team, some of them have lost their jobs as well. It's higher up the food chain where a lot of these decisions have been made, and I'm not sure how much knowledge they've got about the things that they're making decisions on. I must say that the leadership, the direct leadership that I know and work with have been very supportive and very understanding, and they've allowed time for people to process how they feel about this. And again, a lot of them have been directly impacted as well. Somebody asked a question in one of the all hands, the senior leadership who allowed this to happen, are there going to be any repercussions to them? Which was quite a spicy topic. And it was quickly shot down. The CEO said there's no point in looking and apportioning blame to why we're in this position. However, and my spicy comeback for that is, but you're perfectly happy to allow the same people to do the restructure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too sure that's a good idea either. But yeah, I think most of these things were done by a consultancy that came in and said, this is where you're gonna make your savings, and those senior leaders have affected the change.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about that survivor's guilt that I assume is now playing part of the people that are still at Xero. What do you three think of how leaders, like managers or people in a leadership role, could help with that particular behavior and feeling that comes with it?
I'll jump in quickly with this. I was working on a project once about 8 years ago, and again, similar thing happened. We were called into a meeting and said, right, we're axing the project. It was out of the blue. We just released our MVP, and they said the first person getting an interview is me. And I got pulled into it. They sat me down and said, we're keeping you on to mothball the project.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, how many is going to be in the team? And they basically said there's going to be 6. So I was losing 30 odd people. And my survivor's guilt was horrific. I spent the next 3 weeks writing the best references I could and helping those people get jobs and, working through CVs with them. And it wasn't long after that I left, because I just, it kicked the life out of me. So yeah, the survivor's guilt for those that are going to remain is going to be pretty bad. I would imagine. You'd have to be some form of psychopath not to feel for everyone who's losing their jobs. But yeah, survivor's guilt is really real. So.
Yeah. Jacob, what do you think? What will be your tip or advice for leaders and people in general, right? Who feel this or have team members who are feeling this survival guilt?
Yeah, I think we need to remember what Michael said about, dropping productivity. I think on top of that, people who stay, especially the really good people, they will start looking for a different job. Like, that's normal, at least to see what's out there. Because, hey, what if there's a second wave of restructure? Hey, my friends are now in this company, I want to be with them, and so on and so on. So that's going to be very hard for leaders to keep their people engaged. And I think engagement is the only tip I can get, like focus on engagement. And there are different types of engagement, different ways to engage people. But yeah, you need to make sure that you build this strong or rebuild a strong relationship with your people, take into account that they have this survivor guilt, but you also have yours. Maybe start with sharing. Hey, I feel bad about this. Like, I feel for my peers who left, other leaders. I feel bad for the people from our teams who left. And maybe start with that. Maybe there needs to be some sort of grieving that we go through in our teams, so that we can let go of some of this stuff. There are things like liberating structures that allow you to help go through this period and allow you to spend time and reflect what you're giving up, what's happening. So yeah, that would be my advice. Look how you engage people, how you allow them, give the space so that they can express how they feel, and they can make decisions or try to let go of some of this guilt.
Yeah, really good point. I think the focus on the people aspect is in these cases the most important thing. Especially with the numbers that Michael shared on the drop of productivity. I would say if I would be in a position like that, just forget for a few moments that delivery needs to make sense, focus on people and feelings and go through that, to then focus again on the delivery part. This is in line with the poll question, and it's very much a 50-50 answer that came out of the poll. And I'm wondering, Michael, what do you think a organization, if an organization does these kind of layoffs or restructuring, do you think it has an effect on their reputation? And if so, do you think that holds on for a very long time.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
Things have changed. So business agility has come along, adapting an organization to respond to customers' needs in a flexible way. And we know that the 4 elements of that are somehow to do with strategic agility, cognitive diversity, customer experience, and employee empowerment. Now, the ability to be able to flexibly respond to customer needs requires people. It's a people thing. And the fact of the matter is we know our worth. We know that people are providing IP that's now being utilized again and again and again for profit for shareholders, that you no longer need me, but I help build that. I'm part of that family, Rod. Rod, what's going on, Rod? And 1990s, no. Everyone thought of it as in terms of efficiency, command and control hierarchies, and that's just what happens in big business. You wasn't good enough. 2023, we all have a place. We're meant to be whānau, we're meant to be family. We're meant to be part of the value stream delivering customer value. I don't think they'll come back from it. I know Air New Zealand hasn't come back for it. They haven't. It's 3 years later, and I'm still hearing people leaving Air New Zealand from not collaborating on the problem they were having. And they had a big problem, let alone people like Xero who did not have a big problem. Unless they do have a big problem, then I'm sorry, but you didn't articulate that out to the rest of the world. You know, let us know that you have falling numbers and a massive product shelf, or you want to split the company up, but you didn't let us know. And I think, yeah, long story short, I think it will have a massive impact on culture internally and externally from now on.
Yeah, I agree with that. Looking at time, and I see a few similar. Yeah.
Can I add something? Because I think I disagree with Michael, which is great. Because I'm thinking about the 2 times I was restructured. One was from Orion Health, and then my role was restructured when I was an agile coach there in New Zealand. Like all the coaches were let go. And in both cases, right now, I would go and work again for these companies. And why? Only because I at least know that people who make this decision about these restructures are no longer there. There are new people over there. And I talk to people who work in these companies now, and they are actually quite happy with what's happening. So like for me, and 2017 was Orion Health, it's 6 years ago. And yeah, I would go back. Why not? If it's, good things are happening, different people are leading it, and there's different way of doing work and delivering customer value, I wouldn't have anything against it. I would also say that we need, as New Zealand, we need more people, especially in software space. We need more people to come to New Zealand. Like we have shortage still. So these people will not know what happened to Xero. They will just hear good stories. So they will, start creating new brand for Xero at some stage. I think short term, medium term, yes, it's gonna have hit reputation. I don't think long term.
Yeah. A very interesting point. I can feel the same frustration and irritation almost, which Michael shared about this as well. But I can also understand your point, Jakob. There are new people, there's new fresh blood in that kind of sense in an organization, and it can be for the better as well for the future of the company. I think this question has been coming up in the chat as well, and I want to specify it a little bit on agile roles. So agile coaches and scrum masters, those type of roles. How can we prepare for something like this? Can we prepare actually for this? I think that's the first valid question to actually get some insights on. And how could we, from the role that we have in an organization, help our organizations to make a restructure or not type of decision? Siggy, what do you think? You're mute.
Yeah, there's a lot there to unpack. Oddly enough, we were working in my Agile team on a new way of trying to illustrate the value that we bring as a group. I wanted to kind of use it as a sales pitch for what we do and how we do it, and introduce people that we're not there just to talk about Kanban and Scrum, that lots of other things we could do to raise the profile of where we were working. So I think that's one thing that we can do as coaches, you know, look up a bit and engage with the rest of the company and try and show our value and our worth. Preparing for the restructures, like I say, I had a feeling there was going to be a restructure. You kind of read the financial reports and you hear what the CEO says, and you can kind of get a feeling it was coming. I didn't expect it to be as big as it was, though. And you know, these things will come out of the blue, like they did for us, really. I don't know, other than that, how you could prepare for it. And how we can do things so it's not required. I suppose the main thing would be to concentrate on what's the most important thing for the business right now, and concentrate on working on that, rather than trying to do a lot of juggling around. If we're hitting our objectives I think then the company will be happy. I still think we were doing that at Xero, but obviously not well enough for the board of directors, I think. But yeah, I'm not sure as an individual contributor what more that you can do to head off on these things. Just look what's happened all over the IT sector in the United States. It's been bedlam over there with the cuts, and I don't think there's anything those individual contributors at those firms could have done to stop that happening. But yeah, sorry, I'll pass the mic on to one of the others here. But
who wants to pitch in?
Yeah, I'm happy to. You go. I can see you're on mute. You go.
Sure. Okay. This has been, because you said from an agile coach point of view, so I'll talk from an agile coach point of view. I've been saying this for 8 years. Coaches and scrum masters, you need to show value. And it's one of the things that it's one of the biggest debate in items of, can we measure the seeds that have been dropped in the fruition of people's minds and souls and bodies? You can't, and you'll be let go eventually. I've been saying this for 8 years, and a lot of you hate me for it, and it's fine. But this is why I've been saying. It's because if you look at the value chain, please map the value chain. When you map the value chain of how you're delivering value to the end customer, if you're a B2B, there's no such thing as B2B customers, it's an end customer, right? You look at that end-to-end value, where are you adding value? And you are adding value, but you need to show that. And if you're not showing that, you're at the risk of being said that you are dead wood, that you're not contributing towards the value chain. And you do. So I think that's one thing you can do to prepare, is to create that value chain, show who actually you fit in that value chain and how you contribute. Use data-driven analysis to showcase when you're there, when you're not, and how the teams are effective. Don't always say the team is doing such an amazing job, because people are going to presume that means you're not. Can you stop the restructures in the future? Probably not, to be fair. While we have these big corporations, probably not. What I would love to see from this exodus of 800 people from Xero is I would like to see another 300 or 400 startups. That's what I want to see. Preferably at least 20, 30 competitors to Xero. Because the one thing that large companies cannot stand is when you let go of a whole bunch of really good people and they go and set up competitor shops, right? So come join Nectar. We're building an accountancy package inside of our system for free. So yeah, just saying.
Just saying. Jakob, what is your view on this?
Yeah, I to a large extent agree with Michael this time. Surprise, surprise. I have probably 3 main points here. One is that when you work for a business, and whether you own this business or not, in a way, you're a businessman. Like, you're not part of this business. I think you should always think like in a way, business owner, because the success of the business is gonna mean your success as well. So how are you aware of what's happening with your business? How is it dealing on the market? How is the competition doing? What language, as Ziggy said, what language is used by the leadership team? Like, how are you really curious? How is my company doing? Because similar how, Every day I can die, I can be hit by a bus. Every day I can get restructured. Like, how do I live my today so that I can live the full of my life? I'm not saying it's easy. So how can I work today so that I can, show that my business is better at the end of the day? So that would be one perspective. Second is around this value. That's what Michael said. And so understanding how you add value is super important. And also understanding how your business is adding value and asking these hard questions. Should we be building these features? How do you know that this feature should be built? Like, what evidence do we have? Can we go and do some prototyping with people? How many customers do we talk to? Asking all of these questions and bringing us closer to customers, and asking, hey, this team costs 20K per week. Are we giving 20K of return of investment from this team, guys? Are we really? Maybe if we do great, cool. I'm gonna be better. I feel better that maybe there's restructures not coming. But what about the other team? Like, what about them? What about us? And this sort of mindset could help us be ready and start seeing, hey, my team is really sucks at it. Like, we haven't delivered return of investment for the last half a year. Well, what do I do about this? Do I talk to someone? Do I look for a new job? Then you have options. Then you have more awareness. When you have more awareness, you can take responsibility. And the last point is going to be about not what you can do, what you can do outside of work. Not maybe necessarily to avoid restructure, but to be prepared for restructures. I think there is personal responsibility for your growth and your brand in the market. Because when restructure happens, what happened, how I reacted was, okay, I need a new job. How am I going to do it? And there are things you can do. We often think that, the company is responsible for, sending me to trainings and allowing me to grow and try different roles. Yes, great if they do. But at the end of the day, it's your personal responsibility, I believe, to grow, to learn new stuff, to find opportunities for yourself, to do other stuff and be ready when the restructure happens. There are meetups. Do you go to meetups regularly? Do you host your own meetups? Do you facilitate sessions? Who do you offer help? Do you offer your services to others for free or for money? I don't know. There are ways to, build your brand, go for coffee with people, make sure that when the restructure happens, and it's going to happen at some stage, how are you ready? What have you done before? So that you're not surprised, you're not the victim, but actually you're like, I'm in the best shape. I can find a job, maybe not in a week, but maybe in a month. Yeah. So that would be my switch to personal responsibility for your growth and for your brand in the market.
Yeah.
Just one quick thing. We've been touching on like values that we can show up at work as agile coaches. One of the things we do at Xero, and I would urge everyone to do it, when we start working with someone, we set up a coaching contract where we articulate what we're there for, how we're going to operate, and what the end state is going to look like after our engagement. So we know that when we finish the engagement, whether we've hit the mark or not. And that's something that we do at Xero to demonstrate our value, that we're here to engage with you on this issue. This is how we're going to show up, and this is what it'll look like, the end state at the end of it. Because it's very hard, as we've said, to actually show how we show up for our stakeholders, but that is a great way that we could do it. We can flick back and refer back to it. So yeah,
100% agree. Yeah. We're all running out of time, so I'm going to the chat and see if there are any questions left. If you have a burning question, put them in the chat or come off mute if you want to.
Please come off mute.
There has been a lot of interaction in the chat, so it's actually we covered quite a lot of questions already.
And the quantification of value of an agile practitioner will take us more than 5 minutes, but I'm really happy to get into that debate at some stage with everyone, because we have proved it at Surge. We have proved you can do it. And it's hard, and it goes against some of your deep down values of being an agile coach, which is why we transferred it to being a delivery lead. But you can do it. I'd love to talk about that another time.
Yeah, that's a whole other section on its own, Michael. That was a very...
That's another meetup right there, Michael.
Yeah, awesome. Let's go to our last part, which is this is quite a good thing. We always in the meetup from Agile Auckland make an option to either let others know that you are looking for a job and let people know that are hiring, that you can reach out and connect. So I know we have Astrid on this call, and she is from Radically, and she wants to share a little bit. So Astrid, if you're there.
I am. Yes, I am.
Awesome. Hi.
I was listening in. Oh, yeah, thank you so much. Really, really great discussion. And I'm a senior consultant with Radically. I've been in consulting for, I guess, like it's now 25 years, and always in that space of change management consulting. So everything, you know, what has been said and discussed on the call so much resonates with me. And it's really heartbreaking to hear the news, not only here in New Zealand. I'm also in touch with agile coaches across the world, and they've seen that coming 2 months ago. So yeah, really sad, really sad for that. But then again, so we are hiring at the moment. So we are a consultancy, and what we do is we help organizations to become more adaptive. At the moment, we are 22 permanent staff, and we're looking for senior consultants and consultants. And I can Edwin, one of the founders, can't be here tonight, so now we probably get a more frank view on an honest view from me from the front line as one of the senior consultants. Yeah, what is it like to be working at Radically? I've been there for almost 2 years now. And I guess what I value, first of all, is the play, is the work. I do love the consulting. I do love developing assets, coming up with thought leadership. Not everything is already kind of there, and you have to follow a playbook. There's so much stuff that still needs to be created because we are a rather young company. I really like the people we're working with, or that, you know, my colleagues. We come from all walks of life. I'm more on the older side, lots of young consultants and colleagues. We come from across Europe, from New Zealand, South Africa, different genders, different, I think this is something I really appreciate. And we are trying to do different type of consulting, really partnering with companies and co-creating solutions. So we are not agnostic. You have to do this, you have to do that. We're looking at the problem, and then we co-create and work together with the client. And I've been socialized with an Accenture, and we don't have all of this. So this is one of these big consultancies. So we don't have all of this bullshit like performance management, timesheets, what else is like, you know, all that stuff that comes with consultancies. We don't have that, which I find super refreshing. And we're growing, and with growth comes growth pain. So I had my ups and downs, but I think I found my niche, and lots of opportunities. Just looking at Marlene, who has been joining Radically 3.5 years ago as senior consulting. She's now taking over as the general manager. And that makes me super proud because it's, you know, it's a female GM. That's one thing I appreciate very much. We're standing up new services. I'm going to be standing up or working more in this leadership development space. So there's lots of work to do with clients, but also internally shaping the culture. And that's, I think, is super exciting. And if you're thinking, it's like, okay, who are we actually looking for? I guess we're looking for people who bring a range of, skills, capabilities, and expertise, being it agile, being it in organizational development, operational model design. But I think what we all need to do is we need to be able to build on what we have and expand that. As Jakub said before, it's about, this continuous learning. Yeah, that's one thing. And then it's just like being flexible. You need to find that balance between coaching, training, consulting, and you have to find your own niche and have to be resilient at times, definitely. And just, I guess, a lot of curious people and very kind people. It's like, it's nice. It's a nice place to work.
Astrid, can people contact you by LinkedIn if they have questions?
Yes.
Or all right, awesome.
Or Astrid at Radically, or Edwin at radically.co.nz, or via LinkedIn, Astrid Feichmin. It's a very German name, so not so many Astrid Feichmins on LinkedIn. Yeah,
I'm sure we will find you. That's all good. All right,
thanks
awesome.
for the opportunity.
Yeah, that's all good, Astrid. Everything to help people in this situation. So thanks so much, Astrid, for your time. I'm seeing in the chat there are some people responding to looking for a job or having to hire people. So just respond to each other. This was our panel discussion. Jakub, Michael, Ziggy, thank you very, very much. It was very cool to hear your views and to share the opinions. So very appreciative that you spent your evening with us. So thank you so much. Just to have a quick look, in 2 weeks from now, we have an international speaker, which is Marco Bushman. He is a friend of mine that I know from the Netherlands, but he is doing a session more on emotional intelligence level. So nothing straight related to frameworks and ways of working, but more on the behavioral aspect of teams and how you can be a human being or a human doing. So that's interesting. And then in May, we have our in-person meeting again. This will be at Go See Travel in town. They are happy to host us all, and they will tell you more about their agile transformation using a new framework, which is Shape Up. So you will see our meetup page being updated for that. So keep an eye out. And then I want to say thanks again to our panel. Thank you everyone who was here tonight, especially everyone who's going through a restructure or a layoff, regardless if it is Xero or anyone else. I wish you all the best. Lean on us as a community. I know Jakub leads a very great agile coaching meetup community. So reach out to all of us. We're here to help you. Like Miha and Michael said, like we're a fan now and we are here to help. And let's make us a fan for New Zealand and show how it can be done as well. So thank you all. Thanks to the panel. Thank you for everyone. And I wish you a very, very happy, great evening. Right?
Bye, everyone.
Guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, team.